my experience to South Korea. So, first off, let me tell you who I am. My name is Janine. I am a military spouse. I am currently 20 years old, and today is March 10th of 2019. So, I want to tell you guys about the experience, the lovely, lovely experience of getting here and of command sponsorship. The whole process of what I personally went through to get here internationally or to any base that needs command sponsorship. So I'm going to say, hey guys, to everybody who's watching this channel. So let's start with this. So this is how the process went. My husband personally, at his Fort Jackson base in South Carolina, which is in the U.S., once you get to your, once they find out their duty station, their very first duty station, and it's internationally or it's a place where you need command sponsorship, which, if anybody doesn't know what command sponsorship is, it's basically help to get you to their duty station for free. The very nice way of putting it. So the very, very first thing you need is your husband or your wife is going to do this paper that is for command sponsorship, which is they're going to put your details on to that piece of paper and turn it in to either their sponsor or to the command sponsor program that is at least every base. So it took I would say about 3 weeks. Some people got it automatically, like a day, I wouldn't say a day, like a week or 2 weeks right after, and they knew automatically if it was a yes or a no. What they asked for me personally was a full physical of me. So I had to go to the doctor. I got a brand new physical, which I was healthy. I mean, I still am. I say was like I'm dead, but I'm healthy. So I sent that all to her. I sent my shot records, which I had to get a couple shots updated. So I got a couple of my shots updated. And from there, when I found out I got approved, the process started. And this is the hardest process of the whole command sponsorship, is finding a base that can do a no-fee passport. And if no one knows what that is, it's basically a military passport for spouses, as I would say, so they can travel per the military. With that, the no-fee passport, I went to Tullahoma, which is in Tennessee. I went to an Air Force base, and my husband's in the Army. That was like the closest base that could actually take care of us, that actually had someone on base at the time that could take care of us. So, with that being said, she took care of me. It was completely free. She made me do the online application, which is through the government website, which me personally, they tell you to do it while you're at home, but technically I wouldn't do it. I would wait till they get here so they can do all the process so you won't mess up. So I would wait until you get there to get on their computer to do the process. So basically what she needed from me was my military ID. She needed my birth certificate. She needed my the orders and the amendment. With what an amendment is basically the orders were created before I was added to his duty station orders. So the amendment basically is another paper added to those orders, which basically what I would do, spouses, for your Army soldier, is take copies of those papers, as much as copies as you need, because they either lose them or they need copies of them. Even though they already have them, they just basically, people will take your copies of your stuff. So please take copies of them, because it's kind of hard when you're internationally and you don't have a lot. I would definitely just save them to your phone, save them to your computer, save them to your iPad, take a lot of copies of them, hide them away until you need them. So all that being said, she took care of me. I expedited it so I could be with my husband a lot sooner, even though it took about a week and a half to almost 2 weeks for the passport to actually get here. Once that happened, I had a contact where my husband went to basic and AIT. I was lucky, and my husband went to the same base for basic and IAT. So he went to Fort Jackson, South Carolina, which was his base. And I contacted the travel office, and their travel office basically, what they all you had to say was that I want to apply for an OP passport. And since you're far away, if you don't live in South Carolina and you're like out from Tennessee to South Carolina, especially to Fort Jackson, it's about 6.5 hours to 8 hours depending on what driver. I did it all through email, which she gave me her military email, and she told me what I needed. She said she needed a picture of the passport, which is not just like the outside booklet, it is the inside where your photo is and the details. And she needed my orders, and she needed the amendment. Me personally, they just looked at the orders and she emailed me back saying I wasn't on the orders. So I had to email her back and let her know that I have an amendment. So that amendment takes care of the order. So basically that's me on the orders, quote unquote, basically the nice way. So she took care of me. She wouldn't answer the phone. So basically I would say every base, every number you try to call, it's kind of hard for them to either answer the phone or they're like busy like all the freaking time. So it's kind of, yeah, I would say. So if you can't get a hold of them and you only get a hold of them once, try to get all their contact info before you hang up that phone. Because once you hang up that phone, it's going to be hard for you to get back on the phone with them, at least to them personally. I had to contact another office to ask a question about the amendment because I didn't know what it was. I didn't even know the word amendment, and especially in military terms, on a piece of paper that was added to an order. That's all I knew. And I didn't know how strong of a paperwork that was to the orders. So once I got that done, she emailed me my itinerary. And what an itinerary is basically gives you all your flight details, which you're going to need. So take copies of it. You're gonna need it. So I took a lot of copies of them, and I packed them all in my carry-on. Do not put your paperwork in your suitcases that is not with you. I mean, it is going to be with you, but it's going to be in the airplane with you, not in access, which once it gets on that airplane, you can't touch it till you get to your destination of where you're going. And you're going to need that military paperwork throughout the whole time you're flying. So I put it in my carry-on, and I made sure it was with me. And every time they asked for it, yeah, I had it with me. With that being said, I flew Delta. I see a lot of questions about how many bags you can take, how much they can weigh, and do they cost money. Me personally, it didn't cost any money whatsoever. I had 3 suitcases. I had a carry-on and a purse. So I guess you could say I had 5 bags. I didn't have to pay for any. They did have to check bags, which is like if you take any electronics like laptops, iPads, PS4s, Xboxes, anything like that, you need to take it out of your bag so they can separately scan it. I'm not sure if just Nashville Airport, like International Airport, does that just because it's International Airport or not. I'm not really sure, but they made me do that. So you had to take off your socks, shoes, you had to take out your electronics, you had to take off your jacket, and you had to stand in a machine and do this and not move. So after that, I got onto my plane, and that was it. I was off to Korea. So process of getting into country. They are going to ask you at each airport about a stamp. You do not need your stamp until you get into country, so do not freak out. If they say you need your stamp before you get in country, that's a lie. Show them your military paperwork, because you don't need it until you get into country, because once you get into country, you're going to go through quarantine. Quarantine will give you a piece of paper that basically gives you a date, and that basically gives you a valid date to get your stamp. which it's not, when I say that, you basically have 90 days to the start date that you get into country. You have from that date 90 days after that to get your stamp. If you don't, you have to go back home. Well, they will find you and you have to send back home. So that's kind of like a big ordeal if you want to stay here. I also have I see a lot of questions about apartments or housing. Okay, so Camp Humphrey, there is a lot of higher up housing, which if you're not, I think it's an E7 or above. I don't know if it's 07. I think it's E7. I'm not really sure. But basically those housings are for the higher ups. And they also have apartments, but they only have the ones that I've seen personally on Camp Humphrey. I only see like 4 big apartment buildings that basically are like booked. Like, you're gonna be lucky if you have an apartment on base. Which is, you know, pretty cool if you get to live on base. I live off, which is at Brownstone Apartments, which I really recommend if you have off-base housing, only because you're surrounded by wives. Wives and husbands and basically military spouses in general. They're very kid-friendly. They're very pet-friendly. They're good on cats. And fishes and like gerbils and stuff like that if you're into those. Dogs, personally, basically any dog that's 3 months or older needs a muzzle. No matter what breed, or what kind of dog they are. Even if they're the nicest thing to be, it basically freaks out all the elders or anybody, any Korean in general. So basically every dog that you see is either going to be muzzled or they're never outside. Because, I mean, they rather be inside than muzzled. With that being said, the apartments, if you go to Brownstone Apartments, I'll tell you all what happened. Basically, I went through, I think it was Smiles Realty. Don't quote me on that. I'm not really sure. It's been a long time. And what they did is they showed us, I think they showed us they showed my husband about 2 apartments here. I wasn't here. I was on video chat because I was still back in the States, in the US. With that, what he did, they showed us around. We have right now, it's just me and my husband. We have no kids, no animals. It's just me and him, and we have a 3-bedroom apartment. I know that sounds like a really big deal, but that's literally all they technically have in these places. I mean, they do have a 2-bedroom, but we chose a 3-bedroom because it only has 3 units up on the 14th floor, which basically it's a little bit quieter and it's not a lot noisier. That's a lot creepier than usual. I mean, unless you can afford it, I would get it. If you can't afford it, don't get it. Make sure if it's noisy, you just don't have to deal with it for the however long you're here. Which, me personally, me and my husband are here for 2 years, and he can re-sign for another year. I don't know the whole process of command sponsorship. I'm pretty sure all they do is I'd put a little thing in the computer and then you're off for another 12 months. Vehicles. Basically, you have 30 days to get your license here in Korea. Which is pretty, speed limit signs are different. They're a lot ruder here driving. I say that, and I'm in Nashville. I lived in like close around like 30 minutes away from Nashville. So, I mean, here they're impatient, pedestrian. You see a lot of pedestrians. So basically they have the right of way like usual. A lot of the laws here are different. You can't get tattoos here. It's against military. I mean, the wives personally, if you trust it, you can go, but the soldier itself can't. It's like a red zone, they call it. They can't go to any spas because it's, they say it's, I guess, hygiene-wise or something. Like, I'm not really sure, but it's a red zone. I mean, some people like it. Some people do it, but soldiers personally will be like, no, I'm not getting in trouble, so they won't do it. But you, like spouses personally, if you want to have like a day, you can go. I mean, I've seen a lot of wives go to spas, and I've seen them have fun, and they were having a blast at a spa, which is like great, good for you. Bless me. Sorry. So with that being said, that was my process. What else? Vehicle registration. Vehicle registration is basically at one stop and is a huge, it's called like D-bids. Basically, you have to have the paperwork for your car, which is basically wherever you get your car, it has to be that registration. All your paperwork here is going to be in Korean. So you got to warn that. So if you don't know how to fill it out, either ask one of the spouses on the pages or wait till you get to the place personally and then fill it out there. Basically what that happened is that it was about 36,000 wons, which is their currency here, which is wons, which was about, I'm bad at math, I ain't gonna do that. Which everything here personally is like really, I would say, expensive. It's a little expensive here, but that's, it's only because they know how much money you make. Let me warn you about these. Realtors know how much you make per your rank. The realtor knew we had no kids. We had nobody. Like, we were just 2 people. And she showed us a 3-bedroom apartment for 2 people. And didn't tell us that we had to pay. We got a fully furnished apartment. And basically, she didn't tell us that everything that was in the apartment we had to pay for the 2 years of being here. So we didn't know that till after we signed the contract. So read your paperwork, or at least ask how you're paying for all this before you sign the paperwork, because either that, you're fucked. Sorry for cursing. But it's very, very stressful getting here. Hey guys, a little add-on. So, I forgot to talk about, it's called ration cards, which is basically, here everything at the PX is rationed. I mean, basically everywhere on base is rationed. I say that, but basically the wife has to have a ration card and the military ID getting into the PX, which is the PX main exchange here on Camp Humphrey. Which, that being said, they sometimes let you in, they sometimes don't. Me personally, if you forget about it, I would basically go to car and get it again, because they are rude in letting you in. Even though if you say, I'm not buying anything, my husband's buying it, I'm just here, they don't even care. They're going to tell you ration card. Where is that? Ration card. Where that? Which, it's like a little gold, to be honest, it looks like a gold membership card that you would get at like a grocery store or something like that. So with that, you just have to show it, flash it, and then there you go. And if you buy something personally, they're going to ask for your military ID and then your ration card. Everything is rationed. So basically week by week, you gotta kind of have to take a break. So if you buy too much of one thing, they could flag it and say, sorry, you can't buy this. Even though you have the money to pay for it, it's the ration saying, being like, ding, 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 can't buy it. Which hasn't happened to me, because me and my husband literally buy like a week's worth of groceries and then goes to like 2 weeks to a week of groceries, and then goes to the grocery store again and gets more groceries. With that, if depending on how people feel about credit cards and stuff, which this is called a military star card, which works on every single military base. So my husband's contract is 4.5 years, which now his half year is done and over with. So it's just 4 years, unless he resigns and he goes for another couple years. So, with that, the military star card basically gives you points for everything that you buy. And with that being said, I would highly recommend, because it's really tight here, especially for the first couple weeks, your budget is tight unless you can save up before. Unless you can beg your husband or wife, please stop spending money. Please, let's save up. I would save up at least about $5,000 before you guys get here. I know that's a little bit rough, but you have to pay that month's rent and the month after. So you have to have 2 months rent worth if you don't have it. With that being said, if you don't have it, you can go to finance. finance is a military thing that's, I think, at the One Stop here on Camp Humphrey. And at the One Stop, it's on finance, which is on the 2nd floor. You go there, and basically they give you everything that you need in one, which is, when I say one, I mean WON, which is their currency, and you give it to your realtor. Everything basically here goes through your realtor. It doesn't go through the management of the building unless it's like a mechanic issue, or I think actually you do go through the realtor through that too. Us personally, our security system was messed up, and it would, every time we would go in, the alarm would go off. And we didn't have to go turn it back off. So we had to have that fixed like the first week we were here. So that was fixed, and that was, I don't think, we didn't have to pay for that at all. It was all free through the realtor. So that being said, everything here through Brownstone Apartments, it's basically recycling. It means you can't throw cardboard boxes in the regular trash. You have like the food waste, and you have plastic bags, you have styrofoam, you have like metal cans, you have stuff like that that you have to recycle. But me personally, I'll tell you a little secret, I don't do it. I don't do it, but that's okay. They do have a fine here if you don't do it, but basically I know everybody here at Brownstone Apartments doesn't always do it, which, so that being said, also, in processing, me and my husband personally didn't know in processing for spouses when they get here was a thing until I got here. I don't know the process of it, so the next video will be about that in processing process, so I can tell you guys about it personally, because you love me and I want to make sure you guys are taken care of before you guys get here. If I think of anything else, I'll make another video about it. So what you need to do is hit that like button right below and the subscribe button if you wanna. If not, that's okay. I know you'll be back. But basically, nice comments. Don't be mean. No one needs to be mean around here. Well, love you guys. Toodles.